At my daughter's birthday, I found her cake in the trash. My sister laughed. She wasn't worth wasting cake on. I picked her up and left. Next morning, Mom sobbed, "Please call the venue. They're canceling your sister's wedding." I simply said, "Honestly, I don't care," then hung up. My daughter's birthday cake was in the garbage, face down. Blue icing pressed against a coffee filter and a paper towel and whatever else had been in that can before someone decided a 7-year-old's cake was less important than the space it occupied. I could still read 3 letters of her name through the wreckage. L-I-L. I stood at that trash can in my mother's kitchen for a moment that felt much longer than it was. The noise of the bridal shower was behind me. Music, laughter, the specific festive sound of a party that does not know or care that you are standing in the next room looking at your child's name in the garbage. My sister Brooke was in the doorway. Wine glass, easy posture, the expression of someone who finds the situation mildly entertaining. She didn't flinch. She laughed. She wasn't worth wasting cake on. One of her bridesmaids, I never learned which one, giggled from somewhere behind her. The other one looked at her shoes. I didn't scream. I am a forensic accountant. I have sat across tables from people who have stolen millions of dollars from their employers and their families and their business partners, and I have never raised my voice once, because raising your voice is what you do when you don't have the evidence yet. When you have the evidence, you don't need the volume. I felt the smallest hand slip into mine. Lily had followed me in. She had heard every word. She was 7 years old, standing beside me in her birthday dress, yellow, with a sash, because she had picked it herself from 3 options I'd laid on her bed that morning, looking up at me with those careful eyes of hers, the eyes she gets from her father, which is one of the 2 good things I can say about that man. Careful eyes that were, at that moment, doing the thing children's eyes do when they are trying to figure out whether they have done something wrong. I did not look at Brooke. I knelt down to Lily's level, right there on my mother's kitchen floor, and I said 2 words. "Shoes, baby." We left. No slammed doors, no scene, no parting words that everyone would talk about for years. Just a mother and a 7-year-old walking out to the car in the October dark, Lily's hand in mine, and a decision forming somewhere very quiet and very deep in my chest. The kind of decision that doesn't arrive loud, the kind that arrives like a door closing. My name is Mia Callahan. I am 34 years old, and I am a forensic accountant at Tierney & Cross Financial Investigations, a 12-person firm primarily contracted by insurance companies and civil litigation attorneys to trace money that doesn't want to be traced. I have been doing this work for 9 years. I am the person you call when your business partner has been skimming for 6 years and you need to prove it without tipping them off. I am the person who finds the one transaction in 10,000 that was structured specifically to avoid detection, and I find it because I know what hidden money looks like from the outside. I know its shape, its rhythm, the particular way it tries to look like something it isn't. I have built cases that sent people to prison. I have done it quietly, with spreadsheets and bank records and the specific patience of someone who understands that the truth is always in the numbers if you're willing to look long enough. My sister Brooke did not know any of this about me. This is not unusual. Most people, when they discover what I do for a living, say some version of, "Oh, I thought you were just an accountant." I have stopped correcting them. Let people underestimate you. In my experience, it is the most useful thing they can do for you. Brooke was 31 and had always been the one in our family that the room organized itself around, not because of anything she had done, but because of a quality she had been born with, a gravitational warmth that made people want to be near her and be liked by her. She was getting married in 7 weeks to a man named Ryan, who was pleasant and unemployed, and who I had no particular feelings about in either direction. Their engagement had been announced 8 months ago at a family dinner, and the planning had proceeded with the particular velocity of people who have decided to have the wedding they want, regardless of what the budget allows, with the implicit understanding, never stated, always present, that the family would fill whatever gaps appeared. In our family, the family generally meant me. I had been filling gaps my entire adult life without being asked and without being thanked, because I was the one with the stable income and the financial literacy and the specific personality type that finds it easier to handle a problem than to watch it not be handled. I had paid my mother's car insurance for 2 years after my father left. I had lent Brooke $3,200 for a security deposit on her apartment 4 years ago, a loan she had never acknowledged as a loan. I had quietly covered the difference when the family vacation fund came up short the previous summer. I told myself this was what family did. Lily had been the first red flag for the way things actually were. Lily's father and I had separated when she was 2. He was not in the picture in any meaningful sense. Present on paper, absent in practice, the kind of parent who sends birthday texts 3 days late and considers the obligation fulfilled. Lily was accustomed to this and had arrived at a philosophy about it that was, for a 7-year-old, remarkably pragmatic. She did not appear to mourn his absence. She had me. She had her routines. She was, by any measure I knew how to apply, a happy child. She had been excited about the birthday party for 3 weeks, the yellow dress, the blue cake, her specification, blue icing, because she had seen a picture in a bakery window and decided immediately. I had ordered it from a woman named Gloria, who ran a custom cake business out of her home and had a 5-star rating, and more importantly, had remembered from the consultation that Lily had asked for the L in her name to have a small flower on it. The cake was perfect. I had carried it to my mother's house myself, in the back of my car, on the afternoon of Lily's birthday, which had been scheduled as a joint event with Brooke's bridal shower because my mother had had suggested it, and I had, characteristically, decided it was manageable. I should have recognized that as the first red flag. The first full cycle of what I can only describe as a slow revelation started with the champagne fountain. Brooke's bridesmaids had arrived at 2 o'clock with a portable champagne fountain, a tiered acrylic structure, the kind that requires a flat, unobstructed surface and produces a continuous visual spectacle. They had set it up on the kitchen counter where I had placed Lily's cake. I noticed at 3 o'clock that the cake was no longer on the counter. I told myself, someone moved it to make room. It's in the refrigerator. It's on the dining room table. It's somewhere. I looked in the refrigerator, on the dining room table, on the side table, on the breakfast bar. I found it in the trash at 3:17 p.m., face down. Blue icing on a coffee filter, LIL, and Brooke in the doorway, and Lily's hand in mine. I did not think about Brooke's finances on the drive home. I thought about Lily's face in my mother's kitchen, the careful eyes, the yellow dress, the question she hadn't asked out loud but that I had read in the set of her mouth. Did I do something wrong? I thought about what I had said at dinner when we got home, that Aunt Brooke was going through a stressful time and sometimes people said things they didn't mean, and the way Lily had looked at me with those careful eyes and said, "She meant it, Mama," with the calm certainty of a child who has learned to read rooms the way her mother reads spreadsheets. I said, "You're right," she did. Lily nodded, finished her dinner, and asked if we could watch a movie. We watched too. I did not think about Brooke's finances until 3 days later, when my accountant brain did what it always eventually does, started itching. It started with a number, $40,000. That was approximately what Brooke earned as an assistant manager at a regional clothing chain. Ryan was, as established, not employed. Together, they were not a financial unit that supported a $6,800 venue deposit at Maplewood Barn Events, the most sought-after wedding venue in the county, a restored farmhouse and event space with a 2-year wait list and a minimum spend that had been the subject of multiple articles in the local lifestyle magazine. The number bothered me the way anomalous numbers always bother me. Not loudly, just persistently, like a wrong note you can't unhear. I pulled up my personal accounts at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Routine check, the kind I did weekly, current account, savings, investment account, and then, almost as an afterthought, the way you click a tab you haven't opened in months, I opened the old joint account, the one my mother and I had set up years ago when I was helping with her bills, which we'd kept open out of inertia after the arrangement became unnecessary. There were 3 names on the account, mine, my mother's, and a third, added, according to the account history I pulled up next, 14 months ago, Brooke. I looked at that for a moment, then I looked at the transaction history. The charge was there, dated 6 weeks ago, $6,800, to Maplewood Barn Events LLC. My stomach did something that I will describe clinically. It contracted, a single involuntary movement, the physical equivalent of a system throwing an error. I opened my email and searched for Maplewood. There was a message, sent to my address 6 weeks ago. I had never opened it because my email filters had sorted it, correctly at the time, into a folder I reviewed monthly rather than daily. I opened it now. It was a venue contract, my name at the top, listed as the responsible party for the Maplewood Barn event booking. My signature on the signatory line, a signature I had never written. I set my laptop down, picked it up again, opened the bank's document portal and pulled the full account activity for the past 14 months. There was one more item, a credit application. My name, my date of birth, my social security number's last 4 digits, submitted 14 months ago, around the time Brooke's name appeared on the account, to a consumer credit bureau, sent from my mother's address. I sat at my kitchen table at 10:23 p.m. and looked at these 3 things in sequence: the unauthorized account addition, the forged signature on a venue contract, the credit application using my personal information, submitted without my knowledge, from my mother's address. They hadn't borrowed my card. They had built a paper version of me. I sat completely still for a while. Then I called Detective Carol Amara. Carol Amara was a financial crimes detective with the county sheriff's office, 16 years in financial investigations, formerly with the state attorney general's consumer fraud division. I had worked with her professionally on 2 separate civil litigation matters where criminal charges had run parallel to my forensic work. She answered on the second ring. "Mia," she said. "I have something," I said. "Personal or professional?" "Both." I walked her through it. The joint account addition, the venue charge, the forged signature on the contract, the credit application. She listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I respected about her. She collected information before she responded to it. "How long ago was the credit application submitted?" she said. 14 months. "And the account addition?" "Same period." "Who has access to your personal identifiers?" "My mother. Potentially my sister through my mother." A pause. "Mia, you know what this is." "I know what this is," I said. "You want to file a formal report." "I want to call the bank first," I said. "Then I'll file." She understood the distinction immediately because she is good at her job. "The fraud claim gets you the clawback." "Yes," I said. "The venue's deposit bounces 7 weeks before the wedding." Another pause. "Longer. That's a significant consequence." "Yes," I said. "I've made my peace with it." She gave me the case number before I hung up. I wrote it on the top of a legal pad in my handwriting and then started building the document package below it. I called my bank's fraud division at 7 a.m. the next morning. The representative I spoke with was a woman named Patricia Burke, who had been in fraud response for 11 years and who moved through the process with the efficiency of someone who has had this conversation many times and knows exactly what each step produces. Unauthorized account signatory addition, confrontation, she said, typing. Fraudulent use of account for venue deposit. Forged signature on contract naming you as responsible party. Credit application submitted without consent. She read it back. Is that complete? That's complete, I said. I'm issuing a case number and initiating a freeze on the disputed transactions. The clawback on the venue deposit will process within 24 to 48 hours. She paused. Do you have the venue's contact information? I have the contract, I said. They'll receive notification of the disputed charge within 1 business day. I thanked her and hung up. Then I went to my home office and printed 3 collated copies of everything. The account statement with the unauthorized charge circled in red, the venue contract with the forged signature, the credit application, the timeline I had constructed, and Patricia Burke's fraud case number. I put each set in a separate manila envelope. I wrote nothing on the outside. I paperclipped a yellow sticky note to the top copy with Carol Amara's case number. Then I made breakfast for Lily, drove her to school, and went to work. My mother called at 7:12 a.m. the following morning. I was already at my desk. She was sobbing before I finished saying hello. The particular performance of my mother's distress, which I had learned to categorize in the same way I categorized financial irregularities, genuine or strategic, and if strategic, in service of what? The venue is canceling, she said. The deposit bounced. Mia, please, you understand how banks work. Just fix it. Honestly, Mom, I said, if you could just call them and explain. I don't care, I said. I hung up. She called back twice. I let it go to voicemail. The second message was 14 seconds of crying, followed by the word family, followed by the call ending. She called again at 9 a.m. and said she was having a family meeting at her house on Saturday and I needed to be there. I said I would be there. I brought my envelopes. Quick pause. If you want more stories like this in better quality, my Spotify's linked in the description. My mother's living room held 12 people on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Aunts, an uncle, 2 cousins who had driven in from out of town, Brooke and Ryan side by side on the love seat, and, which I had not expected and which told me my mother had done more preparation than I had credited her for, Ms. Claudia Dalton, the event coordinator from Maplewood Barn, sitting in the armchair nearest the door with a leather portfolio on her lap, and the expression of someone who has been told this is a billing dispute and is hoping it can be resolved in under an hour. Claudia Dalton had been coordinating events at Maplewood Barn for 14 years. She had a business card in a metal case and a voice that was professionally warm in the way of people who have learned to manage difficult conversations without losing the veneer. She had, presumably, been told that a family misunderstanding had caused a payment complication and that the responsible party, me, was going to be present to sort it out. My mother had arranged the seating so that she was at the center, flanked by sympathetic faces, and I was across from her. She had also arranged her expression into something I recognized, the face of a woman who has framed the situation in advance and is delivering the consensus to a room that has agreed to receive it. Mia's been under a lot of stress, she said, to the room, not to me. She made a mistake with the account, but she's the strong one. She's always been the one who handles things. She's going to make this right. We're family. The room nodded. Not enthusiastically. This was not a room full of people who felt certain about things, but with the reflexive agreement of people who have been told what the conclusion is. Brooke had been crying when I arrived. She had continued to cry during my mother's opening remarks, which was a calibrated choice. Ryan sat beside her with his hands clasped, not looking at anyone. Ms. Dalton turned to me with a professional smile. I set the manila envelope on the coffee table. I did not raise my voice. I did not look at Brooke or my mother or any of the carefully arranged sympathetic faces. Before anyone makes any calls, I said, Ms. Dalton should look at what's in the contract she's holding. Ms. Dalton glanced at my mother. My mother's expression flickered. Then Ms. Dalton, being a professional, opened her portfolio and looked. I set 3 copies on the coffee table, one toward Ms. Dalton, one toward my mother, one I kept. The first document, I said, is the account statement showing the $6,800 charge. My name on the account. No authorization from me. I touched the second page. The second is the venue contract with my signature. I did not sign it. I was not present when it was signed, and I did not authorize anyone to sign on my behalf. I touched the third page. The third is a credit application submitted using my personal information, including my social security details from my mother's address 14 months ago. The room processed this at different speeds. Ms. Dalton was fastest. She read with the rapid attention of someone who has been in events long enough to know what a forged signature means for her business. My mother was second. Her copy of the statement shook slightly in her hands. Not from emotion, I thought, but from the particular physical response to reading something you hoped you'd never see printed. Brooke stopped crying, not gradually, all at once, the way a performance stops when the audience is no longer watching in the right direction. Ryan had gone the color of old paper. I filed a fraud report with my bank, I said. Case number is on the yellow note. I've also spoken with Detective Carol Amara at the County Sheriff's Financial Crimes Division. She has a copy of everything in this envelope. Ms. Dalton closed her portfolio with a quiet precision that said more than words would have. She looked at my mother, then at Brooke, then at me. Her professional warmth had been replaced by something much flatter. If this deposit was paid with a fraudulently used card, she said, with the careful diction of someone constructing a sentence for the record, Maplewood Barn Events cannot honor the booking. The deposit is subject to the ongoing bank dispute, and we will not be rescheduling until the matter is resolved. She stood up. She was done here. The room broke open. Brooke's composure left the way composure leaves when the infrastructure holding it up collapsed corpses, fast and not graceful. "You are jealous of me," she said. "You have always been jealous of me. This is about the cake. This is about Lily. You're punishing me." "Brooke." My mother's voice had an edge in it, trying to manage. Ryan stood up. He pointed with one finger at his fiancée and said, loudly enough for all 12 people to hear, "It was her idea. I told her not to. I said, don't touch me as a count. I said it twice." He looked at the room. "I said it twice." Brooke turned on Ryan. Ryan did not back down, which was the most I had seen from him. The engaged couple began screaming at each other in my mother's living room, in front of 12 relatives and a venue coordinator who had places to be. The particular screaming of two people who have been holding a shared secret and have just decided simultaneously that the other person is the one who should hold it. I sat with my hands folded on my envelope and did not raise my voice once. Because you cannot outscream a spreadsheet. I have never tried. From the back of the room, a chair scraped. My Aunt Roberta stood up. Roberta was 67, my father's sister, the family member least likely to speak at gatherings and most likely to be correct when she did. She had been at the bridal shower. I had not known that until she stood up and the room went quiet to hear her. She looked at every person in that room, not quickly. She took her time with it. "I was there," she said, "at the birthday party." She paused. "I saw that little girl's cake in the garbage. I heard what Brooke said about that child." Another pause. "And not one person in that room said a single word about it." Nobody answered. Not my mother. Not my cousins. Not the aunts who had been nodding along 10 minutes ago. Nobody. I stood up. I gathered my copies from the coffee table with the same attention to alignment I bring to everything, edges squared, paperclip straight, and I looked at my mother for the last moment I intended to look at her that afternoon. "The fraud report stays open," I said. Then I picked up my bag and walked out through the front door of my mother's house into a Saturday afternoon that was cold and bright and entirely ordinary. I sat in my car. I did not cry. I am not telling you this to present myself as someone who doesn't feel things. I felt things. I felt them the way I feel them, which is deep and slow and later, and usually in the specific form of a moment I revisit when I least expect to. The moment I was already revisiting was not the venue contract, or the forged signature, or the fraud case number. It was a 7-year-old in a yellow dress with a sash she'd picked herself. Shoes, baby. That was the moment. Everything else was just paperwork. I'll tell you what happened after, because you deserve the full accounting. The fraud case resolved in 11 weeks. Detective Amara referred the matter to the County District Attorney's Office, which is standard procedure for identity fraud and forgery. An assistant district attorney named Marcus Webb, 7 years in the office, a caseload heavy on financial crimes, contacted my attorney, a woman named Janet Price, who had been in civil and criminal advocacy for 22 years, and who had exactly one response to the word forged: "Let's go." Brooke was charged with identity theft, fraudulent use of financial information, and forgery of a legal document. Ryan was charged with conspiracy. Both charges were supported by the documentation I had provided, Detective Amara's report, and the bank's own fraud investigation records, which had confirmed that the account addition had been made using a notarized form whose notary stamp, I discovered this in the bank's records, and I admit I found it almost admiringly meticulous, had been replicated from a form I had signed 2 years ago for an unrelated transaction. They had been planning this. Not impulsively. Not in a moment of desperation. They had planned it. Brooke accepted a plea agreement 4 months later. I was not present for it. Janet was. She called me from the courthouse parking lot and described it in the flat, factual way that good attorneys describe outcomes they consider satisfactory: probation, restitution, a formal record. Ryan did not take the plea. His case is pending. I have nothing more to say about Ryan. Maplewood Barn Events, in the aftermath of the canceled booking, contacted me through their attorney to request my cooperation with their own civil claim against Brooke for the fraudulent booking. I cooperated fully. Claudia Dalton sent me a handwritten note afterward that said simply, "Thank you for bringing the documents. I'm sorry it was necessary." I kept the note. My mother called 3 times in the month after the family meeting. I answered the 3rd call. She said that she hadn't known about the credit application. I told her I didn't know what she'd known. She said that was unfair. I said the fraud case would determine what was fair, and that I hoped she was telling the truth for her sake. She has not called since. I have not called her. I don't know what that means yet. I am giving myself time to find out. Lily started 2nd grade in September. She has a teacher named Mrs. Okafor who uses a marble jar for class rewards and lets the kids pick a book from the shelf on Fridays if the jar is full. Lily's goal, consistently, is the full jar. She tracks the marble count the way I suspect she learned from watching me, carefully without announcing it, with a quiet confidence that the number will eventually get where it needs to go. She has not mentioned the birthday party. She has not mentioned the cake. Children process things in the ways available to them, and Lily's way is forward. I watch her sometimes, at dinner, doing homework, watching the movie she picks on Friday nights when the jar is full, and I think about what she heard in my mother's kitchen and what she made of it and what she will make of it later when she is old enough to have the full picture. I think she'll be all right. I think she has been building the capacity for all right her entire life, the way children do when they have someone steady beside them who knows how to read a room and when to say shoes, baby, and mean it. She asked me once, about a month after the birthday party, whether I was sad about Aunt Brooke. I thought about it honestly. I'm sad about what I thought Aunt Brooke was, I said. I'm not sad about what she actually is. Those are different. Lily considered this with the seriousness she brings to things that matter, like when a number looks right but isn't," she said. I looked at her for a moment. "Exactly like that," I said. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her book. "My daughter is going to be fine. The fraud report is still open, and I never raise my voice. I don't have to."